I was just tweeting out about Southbank and the QTC. So.
Opposite the go-between bridge.
That's good. I'll finish that later. Most of the responses are positive on Twitter, others are abusive. We publish the former and we forget about the latter. I think the introduction I had earlier was that I was supposed to speak for 5 or 7 minutes and conclude with a Shakespearean soliloquy. Is that right? Okay. Any particular Shakespearean play? Most of them are tragedies that have to do with politics. We struck and fret our hour upon the stage and I heard no more. A tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury signifying nothing. But okay. O mighty Caesar, dost thou lie so low? Are all the triumphs, glories, triumphs, spoils shrunk to this petty measure? Anyway, I digress. It's good fun to be here, and thank you for your kind invitation, for BSB for putting this on, for QTC for hosting it. And I'd begin by acknowledging the first Australians on whose land we meet and whose cultures we celebrate as the oldest continuing cultures in human history. Always sends a tingle down my spine, that bit, in human history. Those of you who travel a lot and have seen the great cave paintings at Altamira and Lascaux in Spain and France, not called that when the paintings were made. If you go to the Barrack Peninsula and parts of northern and northwestern Australia and through the Kimberleys, you'll see cave paintings more ancient than anything you'll see there. And so it is remarkable that we get to share this continent with the first Australians, and I thank them for that continuing privilege. Well, I'm Kevin, I'm from Southbank and I'm here to help. Helen, nice to see you there, Helen Abrahams. Last time I saw Helen, we were digging together in your community garden. Is that right?
That's true.
Everyone know Helen Abrahams, your local councillor. She is what I regard as the first missionary of good works. If there was a secular order of nuns, you'd be in it, for the simple reason that I see you involved in every community activity going on that there is. And when we were digging in your community garden, you started that, am I right? The one up here near the markets. That's right. And she's now relocating it some 25 metres. And so any of you who need some exercise, Helen Abraham's there'll be a team out there on Saturday morning. Certainly when I saw it, I came and opened it and ran, because it looked like a whole lot of hard work. One of the truly wonderful things about this community, which I'm proud to represent, is its creativity. And when you come down to Brisbane Southbank, I think of what it was and I think of what it's become, and I see an extraordinary transformation. Back in the Mesolithic period of my own career, I worked as a Chief of Staff to then Premier Wayne Goss. And I remember when, as he was then, to begin with, Leader of the State Opposition, and we were confronted with the Joh Bjelke-Petersen plan for the redevelopment of Southbank, which, as I recall it, was about a 27-storey building, maybe a 35-storey building with a marina around it. Anyone remember this? Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'm glad to see there is some remnants of historical memory and consciousness in this place at least. And it was what I'd describe as Miami, Florida, without the class. It was... I'm not anti-Floridian, I'm not anti-Miami, I'm just making an objective point. And it's a great credit to the decision makers at the time, led by Premier Goss, that we got to where we got to, with the opening of Southbank to parklands, to turn it into an enormous centre for community recreation, and to see Grey Street in the vision of the time as being a precinct in which, frankly, creative and artistic industries could emerge and develop around the institutions which at that stage, in small part, already existed. And so the decision by Wayne, I think back in 1992, to proclaim the parklands, and beyond that to open up the walks around the riverfront, these are all important legacies from earlier decisions on the part of a government which took how this community evolved into the future very, very seriously. But you're the good folk who've actually made it work. And when I look at the institutions of creativity across Brisbane Southbank, they provide me with a great sense of spiritual encouragement. Here we are at the QTC, and it's great to see you in your relatively new digs. But across the broader precinct, it's quite remarkable what we have here. I've just seen folks from Goma, who now have an extraordinary acronym which they describe both the art gallery and Goma together with, which is? Quagoma. Only here could we have something called Quagoma. It's like something you discover at the end of a test tube in a laboratory. Quagoma. Anyway, the art gallery and Goma, as I would normally describe them, I think are extraordinary institutions. The veranda, as I call it, you call it the Great Veranda? You should. On the riverside of Goma, I think it's one of the great public spaces for gathering. And then, of course, we have the extraordinary institution that is the library. And I think one of the wonderful things about going to the library is, and I think an initiative between the Bligh government and maybe ourselves, but you can correct me on the detail, was that you can go there and these kids have effectively outside 24-hour access to Wi-Fi wherever they come from in the world. This is just a wonderful thing. And it's a natural extension of the institution of the library and the university, which has only been really an effective innovation in the West for the last 500 years. So you are continuing that tradition out there in the front of the library. And then you go on, of course, to the Performing Arts Centre, you go on further to the Conservatorium, you go on further to the other institutions of Griffith University in terms of film and television. And I'm sure I've forgotten some on my way through. What have I forgotten? The Con. I did mention the Con. The opera, and all those, and the ABC, and which I can claim some credit for, because as Prime Minister, one of the things that you get to run around the country and do is every bloody ABC studio in the country, from Wagga Wagga to wherever. And guess what I discovered in my peregrinations? It was that this one, as it was and before the health-related disasters over there at St Lucia, was the biggest dump anywhere in the country. And so a few of us got together with the ABC. Anyone here from the ABC here tonight?
Yes,
down the back. And I've been in there recently for a little bit of forensic surgery from various of the journalists. And I've got to say, it's a great space. So you put all this together, we now have serious, creative, critical mass. This is a very good thing. It doesn't happen in every city in the world. And I believe this has got enormous potential to develop in further creative directions that we haven't even begun to think of. You travel the world more broadly, and what do all governments in the world talk about these days? The essential ingredients for the future, and the economies of the future are creativity and innovation. And people often simply assume that innovation is that which happens within a science laboratory somewhere with a whole bunch of geeks and nerds sitting around in white coats. They have their place. I'm pro-geek and I'm pro-nerd. In fact, I'm the patron saint of nerds. But what is really interesting is if you actually explore the creative parts of the brain which go towards making new things, is that what we talk about in terms of the creative arts as opposed to the innovative sciences actually come from the same faculty of the brain. And so the fact that these are drawn together with this great aggregation of institutions and related to that creative industries, I think is a wonderful thing for this community, but more importantly, a wonderful thing for the country and the nation and the region more broadly. You folks from BCB also represent something very hard-nosed, and it's called business. And making a quid is not easy. I'm married to a person who began with a small business here on the fringes of Brisbane Southbank 25 years ago, with half a secretary and an upstairs attic office adjacent to what was then the funeral parlour, along not far from where the Children's Hospital is about to be completed, long since demolished. And Therese, in the last 25 years, having had her origins here, has built a business not just across Brisbane, but a worldwide business with a couple of thousand employees. And frankly, through her experience and through my knowledge of it, it's not easy to pay the paychecks. It's not easy to grow a business. It's not easy to come up with an idea and translate it into something which actually works. So when I look at all of you who are out there making money and running businesses and employing people, I am at the first point instantaneously respectful of you, because I have some knowledge of what it is to write out paychecks. I have some knowledge of what it is to turn a small business into a viable business, into a sustainable business, into a medium business, and sometimes into a large business. My word of encouragement to you in terms of where we sit as a significant city within Australia, it's third largest, and Australia is a significant economy in the world, with the world's 12th largest economy, and we are the 4th largest economy in Asia, after China, Japan and India, is that the ingredients for building businesses and greater economic opportunity across our wider region are very, very good. If you look at the state of the global economy at the moment, if we're fixated on our screens, we see what's happening in Europe, and frankly, that's almost become a boutique industry in self-induced depression. There are objective things wrong with the European economies. Let me tell you, there's a whole lot of strengths there as well, and they will come through. There are now serious growth, new growth prospects emerging in the American economy. The employment numbers are up. Some would like to see them even higher. And when I look at Asia, I also see the regeneration of growth out of China, and now the change in government in Japan and their new approach to monetary policy, a whole new set of growth potential emerging from Japan, which haven't been present for the last 10 to 15 years. What does that all add up to? We can all point to what's going wrong in the global economy. We can also point to the challenges in the Australian economy. But I've got to say, when I look at the overall trajectory of the global economy, it's pretty good. And why does that matter to us? Because a lot of the business that comes to this part of Australia comes from around the world. When I look at the numbers who are now travelling from China, and the projections that by the middle of this century we'll have 100 million Chinese tourists running around the world, let me tell you, this will be part of the destination. This will be part of their experience. But broader than that as well, people with a genuine taste and interest in what we have to offer through the cultural institutions and the creative businesses of this part of Australia as well. I think the mindset of our community here in Brisbane Southside is inherently global. It is inherently internationalist. We see the world as part of our parish. We don't see ourselves as some sort of minor Queensland rump. We see ourselves as proudly local, but frankly engaged with all the stuff that's going on in the world as well, in creativity and in business. And so with those thoughts, I'm pleased to be with you this evening, and I offer them as words of encouragement because the prospects out there, I think, are pretty good. Thanks for having me this evening.